Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Garibaldi Red podcast, a Nottingham Forest podcast. We are live on Sunday, 2 days after Forest make sure that the East Midlands is red, if there was ever any rivalry really there. Forest win 3-1 on Friday night under the lights at the King Power, as Forest currently sit 6th in the Premier League. That depends on other results, with lots of games today and everything like that. But since Nuno's first game in charge of Forest, only Erling Haaland has scored more non-penalty goals in the Premier League than Chris Wood. How remarkable is that? Talk about stats, hey, to discuss all about the performance and what this means for Forest going forward, for probably the best start to a season in a long, long time. First of all, joined by Forest fan and podcast regular Dave Astbury. Dave, good to see you, mate, there on Friday night. I kind of saw you, didn't I, before the game. Didn't come over and speak to you, but kind of saw you from a distance, and we gestured to each other our prediction after a bit of banter, and yeah, I just thought what a great night Friday night was, first of all, mate, for the atmosphere.
A great night on the pitch and a great night off it. Forest squad, management, coaching staff, everybody outstanding across the board, and the supporters were different gravy. It was, I sometimes feel like I remember the first goal went in when Yates scored. I kind of just stood because I wanted to kind of let it infuse into my mind. And then all around was this broiling mass of humanity, like sort of mad particles, you know what I mean? It was just the best thing. And the noise was phenomenal. The only thing I would say about the King Power, the acoustics were so good in there that it made our lot sound even better. And, you know, that 3/4 of the rest of the grounds never heard anything from. The stupid drum, obviously, but no, it was a brilliant night, and it'll go down as one of the great nights in recent years, for the team and for the supporters, mate.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And we were all there on Friday night, which is nice. Also joined by Sara Brown. Sara, good to see you again. You make your second podcast appearance. You were nervous last time, but you did well. And it's nice to have you back. How are you? And I suppose just how are you feeling about Forest at the minute? Because I can remember sitting by you for all those years when I was younger and in the Championship and all the terrible results that we used to see week in, week out. But it just really feels now that it's just nice to be a Forest fan at the moment.
Yeah, I think every game you get a bit more confident, don't you? Each game you go into, you think don't worry, Nuno's going to know how to play this. So, yeah, I mean, Chelsea was great, but Friday night was absolutely brilliant. And once we got that first goal, I did really see how we were going to lose it. It's just so good being a Forest fan at the moment. It's just, I'm sat there just with a big smile on my face, living in the middle of Derby. It's great.
Behind enemy lines, Sarah.
Well, like I said earlier, morning, going to the middle of Derby, watching my son-in-law play football, and there's a girl there in a Lancashire, a 7-year-old. You didn't used to see that a few years ago. So I think that really shows the change in Forest to when we were sat there the 23 years in the Championship. Forest definitely is the East Midlands. And 2 years ago, we watched us lose 4-0 to Leicester, and that's what goes around comes around football, and that shows you how it does. And yeah, no, I'm loving every minute. I can't wait till the next game, and I can't wait till the next away game, Arsenal.
Yeah,
absolutely. I know, absolutely. And I was just saying that I thought I was saying this to my dad the other day. We're going away from home now, not knowing you're going to win. I don't want it to come across like that, but having confidence that Forest are going to at least put on a good performance. And at the end of the day, that's all you can ask for, really, of your professional football players.
Well, you're not going. How many is it today? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know. Yeah. You go in there now thinking they might get one. It might be a 1-0 to them or a 2-1, but you know that we're going to put a decent display on, and that's the difference.
We know now that this team is robustly competitive. For 2 years, it's been basically, please don't hit us, especially away from home, and then we'll try and nick something on the counter-attack. All 5 away games, Forest have been, what are you looking at? Yeah. And getting right up against the opposition. I mean, I'm watching Chelsea this afternoon pretty comfortably dominate Newcastle. £1 billion worth of investment did not dominate Nottingham Forest 2 or 3 weeks ago to that extent. We're a quietly good side, and we're winning plaudits in places in the media and wherever else where I think over the last 2 years there's been a bit of grudge and respect based on our history and our tradition and our mythology. But I think we're winning plaudits from serious, observers of the game about what we're doing, and that's to everybody's credit.
Yeah, Forest now unbeaten in 7 as well away from home, if you include obviously the tail end of last season. We are live on YouTube and Facebook. Christian says, have the feeling this is only the beginning. Heady times ahead. DJ Tone says, Chris Wood is on fire.
Your defence is terrified.
It's Robin Wood now, isn't it? Robin Hood is now Robin Wood, isn't it?
Riding through the glen. That brings back memories, Sarah.
Let's not turn this into a sing-song podcast. Dave, kick us off then, really, just with your thoughts, particularly on the first half. I thought it was... I thought despite Forest scoring relatively early, it was a little bit of a cagey first half. Obviously, the second half, Forest stepped up. We were in control then. But obviously, Chris Wood gets his goal and Leicester equalise. I think that was more of a mistake from Forest, bit of a switch off in particular from Murillo. And it did feel slightly cagey. But again, we're just on about it then. You just feel that Forest have that quality as well now, that you're not worried, really.
I thought the first half could have gone. I thought the score at half-time was fair. I thought Forest, I thought it was a really good watch. For a neutral, the first half was really watchable because both teams played some good football. Obviously, Yates puts us in front. There'd been chances before, but they've been it seemed to me a bit of a basketball match first half. It was like a bit Forest, a bit Leicester, as if like Forest pushed Leicester back, Leicester pushed Forest back. Yates took his goal really, really well. Again, our lads, making the most of Buonanotte, trying to play too much football in his own box, which is never a good idea. Yates took that away well. I thought Vardy's finish was fantastic. Absolutely superb finish, because he hadn't really been in the game to that point. But that's the class of the guy. He's a quality player, Jamie Vardy. I tell you what, if Jamie Vardy had been wearing a red shirt these last 15 to 16 years, he'd be a god at our club. So that was I thought it was a really, really good goal by Leicester. But then after, in a way, I thought the Leicester equaliser probably helped us more. And so again, it was a bit of a ding-dong. It went backwards and forwards. But from the minute, I think, I don't know if it was Ndidi or Mavadidi picked up a yellow card almost with the first action of the second half. Just thought, Forest just looked like they're in control of this. And then the big fella scores that wonderful goal. And from that point on, it was a complete domination, a total domination. We could have, Yates, he missed it. So the big fella makes it 2-1. He then, with his hard work and his determination and his, his utter refusal to give up a lost cause, won himself and finished the third goal, his second. Yates could have scored. Jota Silva could have scored. Callum hit the post. Elliott then fired that rebound wide. Taiwo hit into the side netting. It could easily have been double figures. So I thought it was a good even game up to half time. And a lot of people around me were of the view that this could go either way. But second half was just, there was only one team in its second half, and how beautiful emotionally it was for us as fans in the ground and Forest fans around the world. Our team was the one who dominated and who looked like they'd been in the Premier League for quite a long time. And I don't think we've been able to say that about our lads until these past few weeks. So it was just wonderful, Matt. Absolutely wonderful.
Yeah. Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. I've just realised I said that Chris Wood scored the first goal. I just keep thinking Chris Wood scores scores all the goals.
Of course it would.
But of course it was Yates.
You're right, but
yeah. You did, mate. Thank you. I am still on a high from Friday night. But Ryan Yates doing. I think as well. He gets so much criticism. So whenever he gets on the score sheet, I know it's the whole joke about if Yates scores we're in the trend and all of that, because he doesn't, didn't used to score that often, but I think when he does get a goal, it almost, shuts down the doubters again. Obviously, that, week in, week out, maybe continue to criticise him and they continue to be proved wrong. Sarah, let's talk about Ryan Yates. He had one goal, 87% pass accuracy, one key pass, 4 ground duels won, and 5 5 clearances in the game. They're just a couple of stats from Friday night. I mean, what a performance from him. And he is the type of player you need in a game like that, because it can get quite feisty. It can get quite tasty early on. And you need someone like Yates that's almost, Forest through and through, don't you?
Yeah, and let's be honest, he should have had 2 in that game. I mean, that second one, that should have been a goal, shouldn't it? And I know he's just hard. It's just great to see, isn't it? And we all want to see one of our own in the game. And I'm just so glad that each season he's kind of stepped up to it, because, I know that there's a lot of not haters now, I wouldn't say, but there used to be probably in the championship. And I've always said, look, I'm no football manager, but every manager that comes into this club plays him, every one of them. So there's something about him that they see that we sometimes perhaps don't see. But in this season, he's just gone up another level, hasn't he? He's made the shirt his own. He should have had 2 on Friday night, and hopefully, he should have had 1 on Monday night as well, because he hit the inside of the post. So, hopefully that's what we're going to see him bring more to his game. A few more goals. He said that as well. But a lot of people are saying the goals came from mistakes. But if you watch Ryan's goal, we won the ball back off them. We took the corner, lost it, and then we won it back off them. And then they obviously hit it back to him. But that's because we were pressurising them in the box. That's what we do. All goals come from some type of mistake. You can watch Messi, dink through. You could say, well, 3 players should have took him out. But, so I thought he played great. He was all over the place. But it's hard really to pick out any one player.
Yeah. Yeah. I tell you what, Sarah, on the subject of Ryan Yates, if you get the chance, go on YouTube and see the interview.
I'm on it every day.
Yeah. There was a post-match interview where Ryan Yates was interviewed with Martin O'Neill.
I've watched it. Yeah, he loves him.
And that sums it.
He gave him his debut, didn't he?
Yeah, and him and Roy Keane, when they did their first training session, Roy Keane nudged Martin O'Neill in the elbow, in the ribs, and said, "Have you seen this kid over here? How he's training? How much he's putting in? How honest and humble and hard-working he is." And I think the people who are anti-Ryan Yates are kind of like, they want everybody to be an exotic glamour player. And if they look back at the greatest team that this club's ever had, there weren't that many glamour players in it, but by God, did they win football matches, and by God, were they difficult to beat. And Ryan Yates, what I love about Ryan Yates, he's us on the field of play. He's our representative on the field. The other lads, they're all fantastic in their way. But yeah, when they sing "He's one of our own," it has actual meaning with Ryan Yates,
but he's got to earn that respect. He's got some big names on that pitch, and I'm thinking, he's still captain, because at the beginning of the season I thought, I don't think he'll stay captain. Morgan will probably get it, but no, he's still our captain, so he's got to earn that respect from the rest of the players, and they listen to him. And I think I listened somewhere where they were saying that he was like telling where the players should be, when we let that goal in. But yeah, no, superb, absolutely brilliant. I love him. Well, I love them all, to be honest.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I love them all.
And they earn our love. They earn our love with the way they play and the way they conduct themselves as a group of young men. And I think they're playing at the moment like a family. I go back, the brawl at Stamford Bridge. You pick on my little brother Nico Williams, and you pick on all of us. And it doesn't matter if you cost £1 billion. And I love that at Stamford Bridge. Cole Palmer, he didn't want to join in with it and look after his teammates. He sat down. Our lot were like a family, and they're playing like that at the moment. And
do you think, Dave? Sorry to interrupt there, mate. But do you think in terms of the Forest squad, and I think we've talked about it for ages about having those almost homegrown players in it, but there just seems to be such a likable factor, and you've alluded to it constantly before. But at the end, when the players are coming over and celebrating with the Forest fans, and you've got Callum Hudson Odoi, and
I want to go to the nightclub with them. God, if I was 20 odd years younger, 30 years younger, well, that would have been a good night.
I'd be out of breath in 5 minutes.
They like to dance, don't they? I know that Ada, his fashion sense is just out of this world.
Yeah, but I think that's the thing, isn't it, Dave? They're a likable bunch, and
they are.
You just feel like they really care about the club.
Do you know what? mate. I mean, you know, you watch it and you see there are obviously clear little groups of close buddies in there. Ola, Callum, Anthony. I mean, I saw a photo last night. I think it was from Brittany's Instagram, and there was Elliot Anderson, Nico, Morgan was clearly there because it was Brittany's, and I think Anthony was there, and the four of them were there with the girls having a meal. And there'll be other, you know, I bet you the Brazilian boys like Murillo and Carlos Miguel, the man mountain Murato, who I don't think he ever uses the door. He just walks through walls, that guy. He's so, you know, there'll be groups of them who'll be at each other's houses, and, you know, there'll be, the cliques is the wrong word, there'll be little groups of mates. But when they all come together, there's just a sense. Sometimes, I mean, I ran a team for 17 years, and every now and then I just felt, this is right. The chemistry's right. Why is it right? I don't know. It just feels right. And I think at the moment, the best thing you could say about the Forest community, if you like, that demographic, is that if one of them's not there, you feel like, oh, I feel sorry for him not to be in it. I do what I absolutely love every time they sing for Danilo. Now, that poor lad's he's been through a lot of pain. He's going through a long rehabilitation. But such is the humanity in this squad. They're saying, we haven't forgot you, brother. We know what you're going through, and you're still part of us. You know what I mean? And I think what demonstrated it to me the other night was how good each of the subs was when he came on. Each one of the subs came on without a shred of sort of irritation that they hadn't started the game. Every single one. Ramon Sosa was as sharp as a tack. Taiwo looked to me as if he's kind of getting back to where he was. Jota Silva just makes things happen. Portugal Grealish. Nico comes on. Every time Nico comes on, he adds to it. And Murato comes on, and, you know, I mean, who's going to go against him? I mean, you wouldn't drive an armoured car at that bloke because it'd be a write-off, you know. So to me, it just smacks of unity and harmony, and we're all in it together, and we're all singing off the same hymn sheet. And that, for me, you know, really is a fantastic thing. They're worth my time and my emotion, these lads. They're brilliant in that regard.
Yeah. Absolutely. We will get on to, in fact, we'll talk about Chris Wood. Why not? Let's do it early. And of course, no other player than Erling Haaland has scored more non-penalty goals in the Premier League since Nuno's arrival, which is just mental to say. It's 7 goals in 9 games for Chris Wood now, and he contributes 60% towards Forest team goals so far this season. That's second highest. Liam Delap for Ipswich is just in front with 66%. Sarah, when you look at a player like Chris Wood, and Sky were talking about it quite a lot on Friday night when I watched a lot of the coverage back, and they talk about having that almost sole traditional striker that's kind of returning to this modern game now. And obviously, you know, Haaland's a classic example of that, and holding the ball up, and the same with Chris Wood. But Wood always seems to get in the right positions at the right time, and every time he gets the ball at the moment, you just have this feeling that it's going to end in the back of the net. I mean, his confidence must just be, you know, sky high.
Yeah, I mean, he's proved it in his career, hasn't he? He's a striker. He knows how to score goals. He's got a very creative bunch of lads behind him that are giving him the service. And I think that's what he said. So, yeah, he's just unbelievable. I mean, up to Christmas last year under Cooper, we weren't really seeing that, were we? Something wasn't quite right. And I mean, we went to Newcastle on Boxing Day, and, you know, my husband was a bit like, Driftwood up front, you know, and I went, I think he might score today. I think he might score, because I'm always the optimist one, you know. I'm like, optimistic one. I think he might score. And he says, Sarah, you're delusional. I said, I like to be a bit delusional. So anyway, and he scores 3. And since then, he hasn't stopped. He hasn't stopped scoring. He's got confidence. The lads have got confidence in him. And, you know, whatever Nuno's doing is absolutely brilliant, because he knows how to coach him. And I think he likes a striker like that, because he's had them in his past teams. So, yeah, he's doing everything right and everything he touches. We just need to keep him fit, don't we? I mean, that's the thing. And sometimes when you're playing like that, I think you just tend to, everything seems to be just going right, doesn't it? And if it goes right all season for us with him, who knows how many he could score, and who knows where we could end up. And that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, all these jokes about Chris Wood getting the golden boot, but genuinely he could be a contender for it. And I'm not saying that really with any and kind of any real sarcasm.
But why
Dave,
not?
it's funny. Yeah. And Dave, it's a bit of a funny one, isn't it? Because we talked about when it was the transfer window was still open. I can remember the deadline day stream we did, and we were kind of gutted that we hadn't got a striker and someone as backup. But you mentioned Taiwo getting back to full fitness. We'll come on to him in a short while. But just about the striker situation, if Forest went and got, a £50 million striker in January, are they really going to, beat Chris Wood to start? I mean, I just don't think you'd be dropping him at the moment, right?
No, he's just the most. He's an embodiment of the whole group. Honest, hardworking, humble, gives the credit to his mates. He's the consummate professional footballer, Chris Wood. He travelled to New Zealand for a World Cup qualifier. He scored. I think he travelled to Southeast Asia for a World Cup qualifier for New Zealand, and he scored. He was back in time for Nottingham on Monday night, looking as fresh as a daisy. He scored. Friday night, second game in 4 or 5 days, as fresh as a daisy. His professionalism, his fitness regime, his mental strength is something quite remarkable. And I'm one of them. A couple of years ago when he came in, and I kind of thought, have Chris's best days behind him? I don't know. And the old boy, he's a good centre forward. He'll get you goals. He got goals at Burnley, Leicester, Newcastle, Leeds. He'll get them for Forest. And it's a year and a day since he went, but I still remember his words. And my dad was right about him. My dad was a proper football man who knew footballers. You know what I mean? And Chris the thing is, back in the transfer window, I was like, I'd really love Omar Marmoush from Eintracht Frankfurt, right? And Marmoush is doing great things for Frankfurt. I think he's the top scorer in the Bundesliga, and he looks a hell of a player. I think at the time Frankfurt wanted 30 million, and Forest, in a bit of a change from what they've done the last couple of seasons, no, we think he's worth 20 million. We're not paying that. And it goes to the point that what they see, what we see as supporters is entirely different from what is seen inside the walls of the City ground, if you like, inside the organisation. Because maybe Nuno went, no, I've got Taiwo. Chris looks really, really sharp. Do I really need Marmoush? And I think most of us said at that time, we could do with another striker. But you look at it now, I actually think we've got 3 strikers. Because I think, obviously, Woody, who's doing Woody-type things. And as you say, his stats, for a guy of 33, are phenomenal, really. But then again, you look at Vardy. Vardy's 37, and he's still Leicester's biggest danger. So, as these guys age, it isn't necessarily the case that they're going to sort of slow down or lose what they have, right? And then you've got Taiwo. And I actually think Jota Silva could play as a smaller guy off a big centre forward. I think he's got something about him. So, maybe Nuno at the time knew, and he's entitled to because he sees them pretty much every day, to know more than we do from our distance, So it would be really interesting. I mean, I think by the time we've played Everton on the 29th of December, and that is exactly halfway, we'd have played all the other 19. It'll be really interesting to see where we are. There's going to be that Arsenal, City, United, Villa, clutch of games, end of November, start of December, which will be informative. But it'd be interesting that, when the window opens again, what will Nuno think? No, I'm all right. I've got Chris, I've got Taiwo, I've got little Portugal Grealish. He might think, I don't need to go and buy somebody. I think there will be. I mean, is it, we bought so many players before because we had to, because we basically came up from the Championship on the back of loan players, right? And now, we were overhauling for 2 seasons. Now it's like, right, strategically, we need one there, and it might be 2 or 3. And what you see with Forest, what I absolutely love about Forest is the way they've evolved so quickly, and it's just great to see, Max. Great to see.
It is. It is indeed. In fact, Chris Sutton on 606 Live last night was saying that Chris Wood's the most underrated striker in the Premier League, and that the media and everyone isn't giving him the plaudits.
So. Absolutely.
Yeah, there you go. Right, let's move on and single out some other key players. And as you said, Sarah, at the start of this podcast, it's hard not to kind of give praise to every single player on that team and the ones that came on as well. But I wanted to highlight a player that I think goes under the radar and he doesn't get enough praise and credit is Dominguez. I mean, I just think he is Dave,
love him.
Yeah,
Love him.
I've always liked him.
I
liked him last year.
Yeah, and I think quite maybe harshly left out of the squad at the start of the season, but he's slotted in, and no Morgan Gibbs-White, no James Ward-Prowse. I know he's only been here the last few games, but no, those two kind of no problem really. And Dominguez slots in alongside Yates, and I just thought in terms of transition play in midfield, the turnover was excellent, particularly in the second half. And Yates alluded to that in the kind of the post-match interview with Sky and everything like that. But Sarah, you talk about Dominguez and you said that you've always rated him, and he just seems to he just doesn't really put a foot wrong, does he?
He's like a terrier, isn't he? He's like, are you still here? Are you still on my ankles? Will you go away? He's like one of those. And I thought that last year, loads. I thought I really like him, and I know he was a bit in and out. But I think he's better starting a game. I don't know what you guys think, but he seems to be better than when he comes on as a sub. When he starts again, and he seems to be really getting settled in there as well. I know there was too many gaps first half, I think, on Friday night in the midfield, but I think that was probably the way that Leicester had set up. I think Cooper had put a few surprises in, but they soon shut that down, and then he just excelled in there. I mean, he's quick, isn't he? He's relentless. He's on the ball. He's biting, like I say, he's biting at the heels. Yeah, I really rate him. I think he's pacey as well. He's fast, isn't he? And he's working really well with Ryan Yates. They seem to be going really well as a pair because he does the things probably Ryan Yates won't do, and Ryan Yates does, the things he doesn't. So, I really rate him. I even liked his blonde hair in the pre-season. We're going, who's that?
Max, can I just come in, because I'm so glad you brought him up. I thought, I know Elliot got the man of the match against Palace, and Elliot did some fantastic sort of telly-friendly things. He was really telegenic, beating 4 or 5 and then beating 3 or more to get a shot in, and that was fantastic. And Elliot's been brilliant since he come in, right? I love Elliot. Nothing seems to faze Elliot. He's Mr. Stoneface. Watch him. He takes it all in his stride, But Nicholas Dominguez on Monday night, I was walking out the City Ground, and I wanted everybody who I came into contact with to know how much I love Nicholas Dominguez. And he's underrated and he's unsung, and he was very McGovern-like on Monday night, and he was McGovern-like Friday night. And he when we had our greatest team, McGovern, often people were wondering, what does John McGovern do? But John McGovern made sure he was everywhere he was needed, and Dominguez did it on Monday night and he did it on Friday night. And I tell you what I loved by Nuno and Rui Pedro Silva and the rest of the coaching staff. You lot were lovely against Palace. You've earned the shirts. Go again against Leicester. And that was really lovely to see. It was almost Nuno saying, I appreciate what you did against Palace. You've earned the shirt, right? And more than anybody, Dominguez, to me, he's one of those players that, if you like, and I'm going to be a snob now, the non-connoisseurs of the game will just ride roughshod over, I'm going to go over there with that guy who can beat 4 or 5. No. You need a blend. And Ryan Yates and Nicholas Dominguez give us a blend to allow Elliot to do what Elliot does, and Chrissy Wood to do what he does, and Callum and Anthony and Ramon and Jota, And I just think he's had an amazing week.
His energy is amazing, isn't it?
His energy is incredible. Socks rolled down, sleeves rolled up. What an upgrade on Freuler he is.
Yeah.
And I just think he might be underrated elsewhere in football, but he's certainly not underrated in that dressing room or by his coach. So I'm so glad you brought him up, Max. I think he's wonderful in that.
Well, I was worried at the beginning of the season that we might lose him, because if he wasn't in the squad, and I don't think he was on the bench for maybe the first or the second game, or he wasn't in the squad, and I thought, he might want to go, because he deserves a start really. So I'm glad he's in the mix. Unfortunately, not everyone can play. So it's one of them, isn't it? So I love him and I love him and I love him and I love him and I want them all to play. But yeah, I'm glad he's.
Do you know what, Sarah? It speaks to the depth, and it speaks to the functioning success of this squad. That our most high-profile player, our talisman, he's going to have to win his place back somehow. I mean, Morgan will think, Morgan himself, because he's demonstrated it to me, his unselfishness. He'll think, blimey, Ryan's playing well. Blimey, Nicholas is playing well. Blimey, Elliot's playing well. How am I going to get back in the team? And that's what you want, that competition for places, So it's a
I thought Elliot was superb on Monday night. I didn't quite think he was as good on Friday night. I don't know. Some of his passes went a little bit. So I don't know whether that's just a consistency in that position that he needs that maybe Morgan's got. I mean, I think Morgan's great.
There was the pass to Woody for the second goal.
Yeah, I know. He made the assist, didn't he? Yeah. And he could have had 3 assists on Monday night, couldn't he? Yeah.
Yeah.
Could have had 3 assists, and Forest could have probably had another 2 or 3. Really, actually.
I mean, we could have had
6 or 7-1 would not have flattered us, Max. Certainly based on the second half.
And the opposition actually said that. I think a lot of the podcasts have said 5 or 6 would have been a fair.
Yeah,
absolutely. Just as we're recording this as well, obviously before Arsenal Liverpool kicks off at 4:30. All the other fixtures have finished. West Ham beat Man United 2-1. Palace beat Spurs 1-0, and Chelsea beat Newcastle 2-1. It means Forest will finish the weekend in 7th. Pretty much, we'll kind of level on 6th with Brighton, 16 points. Who would have thought that, hey, with this start to the season, Forest sitting in 7th at pretty much the end of October. Absolutely crazy. You slightly alluded to it in about 15 minutes ago now, and we talk about the quality on the bench and the squad depth, but Ramon Sosa and Jota Silva, just to name the 2, out of the many that came on Friday night. But just the energy, the enthusiasm, and also the confidence. I know Nuno's not on the sidelines, but the coaching staff and his instructions obviously coming down from wherever he was sat up in the stands. But, to have the confidence to take arguably Anthony Elanga and Callum Hudson-Odoi off 2 of your most key players, the 2 most probably deadly players in that final third, and to have the confidence to bring those off for no disrespect to Sosa or to Silva, but 2 fairly young, quite hungry new players to the English Premier League. I think that speaks volumes, and I think obviously it just shows the job that both of those are doing on the training pitch. What Nuno must see day in, day out.
Well, I put myself in one of. Sorry, is that Dave's question?
Well, go on.
I put myself in one of the in the fans, the opposition fans, thinking, thank God them 2 have gone off. Who are these 2 coming on? Oh my God! Because they were just good.
Honestly, I mean, I've seen. I mean, what you have to remember is Ramon is a Paraguayan international. About a month hence, he was playing in a Paraguayan team that beat Brazil in a World Cup qualifier, so he's no mug. And the thing about him, he's such a baby face. He only looks about 13, and he's even Vamos, and all this kind of stuff. I thought in a couple of games when he's come on and he's not had enough time to shine. There was one game, I think the Fulham game he came on, he really played that well. But I think Fulham were the better team that day. But Friday night, boy, when he came on, we were stood there in that sort of corner of the King Power and like, blimey, what's he on? He came on and he was doing, I think, what he was brought to do, and that is be a direct runner and commit people and create space by it. There's me fullback. I'm going to run at him. I'm going to go that way or that way, right? And he's got really serious pace. Jota Silva is. I just think Jota Silva's unlike pretty much anybody else in the squad. He's a bit of a one-off to me. He's just like you talk about a terrier. He's like a staffy. With a bone in his massive jaws, and he won't let go. And
pogo stick.
Honestly, dog. He's got bounce, that lad. Every game he's come on, he's affected the game, and he's made the game go in a slightly different way. That takes ability and skill, and it takes great character. I mean, if you think the only game he's played from the start was the League Cup tie against Newcastle, where he scored a fantastic goal, and our second string were as good, if not better, than Newcastle's first string that night. he's got something, that lad. There's a little bit of housery about him. Let's put it like that, right? And Ramon Sousa looks to me like an Olympic sprinter when he comes on. And then let's chuck in Taiwo, because I think Taiwo, against Palace, he didn't have a lot of time to display his wares. But I thought Taiwo looked pretty sharp when he came on for Chris on Monday night. And, Taiwo I thought to myself, Taiwo looks like he's kind of getting back to it a bit. It was just a small sample size of Taiwo on Friday night. But, as you say, Max, this, next man up applies to like starting 11s if people are injured. And it applies within the environment of a game. And the next men up on Friday night, all of them, chuck in Morato. I mean, Morato wanted some tackles. He put have it into the main, part of the King Power main stand. They all basically said, we all like each other. We'll all go that extra inch for each other. And we have got a bench that does not reduce the effectiveness of whichever 11 is on the field. And that is to Nuno's credit. It's to the recruitment staff's credit. I think Ross Wilson has to have a mention in that. And it just the whole thing smacks of joined up thinking. And it's such a, it's the best we've been for at least maybe 25, 30 years. That's how good it is at the moment. Cherish it while it lasts. It won't always be great. There's going to be some setbacks because some of the vicissitudes. But right now, it's just wonderful, mate. Absolutely wonderful.
It is indeed. I suppose then, Sarah, and not looking too far ahead because, we are football fans and we can get very optimistic. But where can Forest go this season? We've only lost to Fulham so far. We're hopefully going to find some home form. We've got West Ham next. I was about to say they're on a bad run of form, but not now. They've beat Manchester United 2-1. But who can't beat them at the moment? I quite like.
They're rubbish. They're rubbish, aren't they? They are.
I actually. Do you know what? I actually think Forest on paper, and I listened to a point last night from a Forest fan saying this. Forest on paper are a better team, but in terms of Forest at the moment, the togetherness and the way we're playing, we're a better team than Manchester United on paper.
Agreed.
They might have better players or whatever, and they might be highly rated on FIFA and all of that. So, yeah. But Sarah, back to my question of where can Forest go this season? Because I predicted us 12th. Many people will predict us mid-table. We'll obviously take wherever as long as we're not relegated. Really, it's going to be an improvement on last season, but. Can there be a little sneaky underdog this season in the Premier League? And can it be Forest?
Well, there always is one, isn't there? There's always an underdog that comes up that no one's expecting. And I listen to the podcast and I listen to the pundits saying at the beginning of the season, Forest are going to go down. Quite a few of them. Carragher had us in a bottom three along with Leicester and Southampton. And Ipswich is nowhere to be seen because Ipswich is the new Luton, isn't it, this year? So, yeah, I think if we carry on how we are and we don't get too many more injuries, we can keep the spine of the team going. But it seems like if we get an injury, it's okay. Like Dave said, next man up, and everybody wants to play. Everyone wants that shirt on. Everyone wants to get in there. And they all seem to be giving that extra 10, 20%. So, I said this morning, maybe we could get top 6. I don't know. But if I'm realistic, I think it's really hard because the big boys will start flexing their muscles. If we can, I'll tell you now, though, I think we could go to Arsenal the way they're playing at the moment. They're leaking some goals. Then they're no longer. We've took their crown off them, haven't we? For one of the best defenses in the league. I mean, they had it last year, and I think we're up there. Obviously, Liverpool's above us, but. Yeah, if we keep tight and we keep the defence going and we're still scoring goals with Chris Wood, maybe some of the others, why can't we be? Well, we'll definitely be, I think, can't say definite anywhere, can you really, in football? But I think 10th, maybe even higher. I mean, like I say, I'm always a bit optimistic. So I'm always going to look on the better side than the bad. But I didn't think we'd go down because I thought we'd do better last year with Nuno, to be honest. I mean, some of the games, especially Brighton away, when we went to that, it was
dreadful.
hard to watch.
Dreadful, Sarah.
And I was like, what's going on? Because we won at Newcastle, we won at home to Man U, and then we just seemed to just go. I don't know whether it was the FFP, and it was like, but I didn't expect this from Nuno. And I'm like saying, I don't really, and there was a bit of moaning in the stands about him, and I was like thinking, oh, I really don't want to get rid of him, because I'd seen what he's done for Wolves, and I know that he didn't do great at Tottenham, but he still had a 50% winning record, so it wasn't that bad. I mean, I'd take a 50% winning record most of the time. So I don't know. I don't think he's a bad manager. Yeah. So he certainly knows what he's doing. He's got a great calming influence, and who knows? I mean, he's obviously keeping his feet on the floor. The players are as well. But us fans, we can dream if we want, can't we?
Yeah,
that's what Forest do. Leicester's had it. Why can't we?
Yeah. Why can't we? Absolutely, spot on. It's funny actually. My dad's had a bet he had a bet at the start of the season for Forest to finish 4th. So there you go.
Well, I said to Mick, how much do you think I'll get for the win in the league this morning? He went, yeah, you're on drugs.
Obviously, bet responsible.
If you think about it, what we at the moment are reminiscent of is the Wolves team that finished 7th 2 years running. There's so many parallels. Now, I am yet to be convinced that we're as good as that Wolves side, but I mean, I personally think sort of about halfway, perhaps just below halfway. I'm beginning more and more to think that relegation is not going to be an issue. With the proviso that it's really still early in the season. We've only played 9 of 38 or whatever it is. But at the moment, I mean, somebody asked me what progress would look like for Nottingham Forest, and I said I'd like to go through March, April, and the early part of May, not be looking over my shoulders and not looking at, like we did last year, what have Luton done, what have Sheffield United done, what Burnley done, what are Everton doing. So to have like some relaxed football at the end of the season would be great, but it's so far so good, and sometimes you get on a roll, and I mean, West Ham's not going to be easy next week, but there'll be a lot of confidence in that dressing room. I tell you what, I went to a fan trust night that Steve Bennett and the sports, I think the fan board arranged, and Ryan Yates was the speaker, along with Nat Johnson from the girls team. Fantastic girl, honestly. She's an absolute credit to the club and to the ladies team, right? And Yates came on and he said, a little lad asked him about, it was just before we went to Anfield, and this little lad asked him, can we win at Anfield, Ryan? And Yates, he said, well, mate, it's going to be really, really difficult. But he said, and then he sort of addressed it to the room. He said, we now go to places with more expectation than trepidation. Before we were going like, let's stay in the game. Let's just not get a good hiding. And you know what? And 2 days later, that was borne out on the pitch at Anfield by a team that's won every other game, and who refuse, and the media refuse to acknowledge the elephant in the room that Liverpool are this, Arnie Slot's this, but you lost to Nottingham Forest. Liverpool are this.
They've rubbed it out, haven't they? Now,
yeah, they have.
Out of all the stats.
Yeah, so I think there's a definite. I think Nuno, I don't know whether it's a change of character from what we were with Steve and Steve's personality to Nuno's personality, but there's a definite, more optimistic vibe about the lads and how they they feel, and that is, they look now at last an established Premier League team, and it's a good time to be that, because I'm telling you, I watch a lot of Championship football, and I don't see anybody in the Championship at the moment. That includes Leeds, and it includes Sunderland, and it includes Burnley. They're all playing well in that, in that echelon, but I don't see any of them coming up and making an impact on the Premier League. So for Forest to be in that elite 17, if you like, and be there, a fixture in it, we're heading towards that, and that's what I think we need.
I think that's what we're hearing, though, aren't we? People saying you look like an established Premier League team now.
Yes, Sarah. Yes.
And I think, and also they're talking about Leicester as being this Championship team. They only spent 1 year in the Championship, so not like us going up after 23 years, literally.
Yeah.
I mean, even Leeds, if they come up, they've only spent 2 years. They've still got a squad probably worth nearly 200 million. Not like us coming up with 10 million squad and half on loan. So I see the gap, definitely. I mean, even 1 year, you can see the gap. But but 1 win, 2 wins can change it quite a lot. I mean, if we go in and lose the next 2 games, I mean, that's that it moves you a lot this early on in the season.
Yeah,
but
true.
We do say 10 games, don't we? You kind of get an idea.
Yeah.
Do we not normally say that?
Yeah, it's normally 10 games, so we shall see. I said to a mate as well last night, so I've got to say it on air because I said I'm going to be true to my word. He said Forest could be a dark horse, for somewhere like top 6. And I says there's no way. I says there's no way that Forest will finish in the top 6. I said if Forest finish in the top 6, I says I'll get Nuno. I said I'll get Nuno's name tattooed somewhere on me. So there you go. I've got to say it now and go with it.
Forehead on your forehead, Max.
No thanks, mate. Maybe on my arse or something like that. Somewhere where it's a bit more covered then, isn't it? Come on. Yeah. Well, there you go. It's too late now. There you go. Too late. So
I can't unthink of that now.
Sorry, mate. Try and get the thought out of your head. Right. I think that finishes us nicely. We've covered a lot of topics. There's so much to discuss, and we could talk about the win for hours and the starts of the season we've had. But as always, there's plenty of podcasts you can listen back to, and we will be back as well this week for a West Ham preview, and then reviewing West Ham. Nice to have a game at Saturday at 3:00 as well. I feel like even though we did have one a couple of weeks ago, I love Saturday 3:00. So I really don't like it when it's a Friday night or a Monday night. So it's nice to have the Saturday 3:00 back. And keep listening, keep following Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Sarah, Dave, thank you both very much. I've actually really enjoyed it. I've been writing an essay all day for uni on how the media influenced Brexit. So I've really enjoyed this break to do this. So
brilliant. This is far better than that, mate. Forest might not exit. They might go into you rather than exit it at this rate.
Do you know what, Dave? I was going to say if I was writing a 2,000-word essay on Forest starts of the season, it'd be all finished by now. But there we go. I've still got another 800 words to go, so I'm going to go and finish.
Yeah, you can't. You're just watching everything, aren't you? Reading everything, watching everything. It's just great.
Yeah, it is. Man.
It is, and especially I know. Yeah, and especially I know David talks about it a lot when he comes on here, but the inside areas kind of passes that Forest do and release them on YouTube. The latest one is brilliant. And in fact, actually, go on, Dave.
I was going to say, Max, what they do, the match day pass videos, it was an 18-minute one the other night. They allow us to relate to the lads and to build that rapport and to see what they're like sort of behind the scenes and how much it means to them. And the unselfishness of each to the other in that group, and I love the match day passes. I think they're great. Same with the training videos that they do. A lot of people say, "Oh, well, it's just corporate branding, advertising," but no, they make me feel that they, as a group of young men, are worth my time, my emotion, and my outlay, and I think that's an important thing.
Yeah,
we're
absolutely.
Watching and thinking, can I see myself?
I have seen. Do you know what, Sarah? I'm like you do. I was like the Chris Wood video that came out. I did see there was a bit where I saw the back of my head, and I think I was talking to the lady behind because Woody had just made it
talking, Dave. Never.
Yeah. This lady, I said to this fella, I said, "All right, mate, if I give your lady wife a hug," and he went, "Help yourself, mate. We're 3-1 up, right?" And it just summed up. It summed up the whole atmosphere of the club. You know what I mean? So
we were saying that. One last thing. We're just saying that where is it you can go and you don't know the people around you really, do you? But you score a goal and they're your best friend and you're giving them the biggest hug in the world. I mean, I was just coming from half time when Chris Wood scored halfway up. This guy just turned around and he was like hugging me and everything. And I was like, this is why I love football, because it's just great. Yeah. We've all got something in common, and you think this is such a. I know everyone thinks their own clubs are great, but there's just something special about us, isn't there?
Yeah.
There's just something special about us.
Agreed.
There is, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And shout out to the media team at Forest. It's Lauma that's the head of content. She does a great job doing those match day passes. So big up to her. She's been at the club a while and she's followed us through the dark days. So big up to her and thank you as well to Forest for doing those excellent videos. Right, that's enough. We could talk for hours, couldn't we? Give us a like, share and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us across Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Sarah, Dave, enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And 3 years ago today, Forest was sat 16th in in the Championship. Fast forward those 3 years, we are 7th in the Premier League. Time does fly. Come on, you Reds.